Hi, my middle school friends. I am so glad that you're tuning in again. I'm sorry that we can't be in person, but we're going to make the best of it. And we are going to find ways to creatively get you information that you need in order to continue to push on and provide the best instruction for our students who need some intensive reading intervention. So, buckle up. Um, Grab a pen and paper and get ready for some new learning and I think some quality ideas. All right. So the first thing we're going to look at though are what we've been doing so far, and I want you to look at this picture because this is a lot. We have hopefully implemented routines and procedures so that transitions are smooth and your students know what to expect in class. We've been doing thinking reading and vocabulary and visualizing and verbalizing, that quote unquote game that we get to play with pictures. We do warm-ups and wrap-ups every day, our ignite and our review. We've hopefully done some community building so we create the conditions where students feel safe to take risks. And we have done some assessments and are able to use that data to help track how they're progressing through our intervention time. We've had both slash and grade and then fast as well for our students. All right. So I think in today's era, I think we just need to take a deep breath and remember to stay calm as we roll out what we've been doing and just a few notes about what we've been doing as well as what's coming for quarter two. So just as you get the handle of quarter one, we're going to mix things up a little bit and give you some new things for quarter two. All right. So if we're revisiting our thinking reading is one of those things that I'm realizing in hindsight required many more adaptations than maybe vocabulary did during distance learning. And so we may have gotten into some habits that are not as desirable for thinking reading as we have in the past. And so I just want to reinforce, you know, the idea and have you kind of reflect on where are you in thinking reading and what's been happening. What are you noticing with your students during that time and what adjustments might you need to make? All right, be thinking about that. And I wanted to give you some words of wisdom from a veteran who's done this for a long time. One of the things that she found was key to thinking reading was having that thinking reading chart, either the picture chart or the sentence frame chart, somewhere in the room or on a presentation slide while you're engaged in the reading. So students can track what you're saying easily and you can explicitly point to the sentence frame or sentence stem that you're using to make your connection or your comment. Another thing she found was that making sure that they understand that they need to be following along with their eyes in the book. They cannot just listen. Research has said that being read to is just wonderful for vocabulary and language development, but an even greater level of impact happens when they have their eyes on the page and they're being read to as a proficient reader. All right. One of the final things that she said after years of doing this is, as students progress in the first year, allow them to make comments with the thinking reading prompts, and we need to push for that. We need to start moving them from being dependent upon us as adults and teachers to being more independent learners and thinkers. So the expectation is that they're going to be taking on more of that throughout the year. All right. Also, if you're noticing that your students are laughing or giggling or no way during a book. Pause and ask them, what is it that you were thinking of when this was read? What made you have that reaction? It calls attention to the fact that, hey, I understood something here. So it's important to pay attention to that and call attention to that. All right. Remember also, I just want to say, remember that thinking reading is not simply reading aloud. It is not asking comprehension questions. It is not asking, why do you think? Or how do you know? Or what is? It's not time for that. It is time to comment, not question. All right? On to vocabulary. And vocabulary, I think, was one that didn't require as many adaptations or adjustments as I thought maybe that would be needed during distance learning. And so I think vocabulary for many of us has been a source of consistency. And just think about and reflect what's been happening during vocabulary. How are your students doing and adjusting to this? Are they picking up on this? How much scaffolding are you doing and what adjustments do you need to make? All right. If they're struggling, how much more support do you need to add in? If they're picking up on it fast, how much letting go do you need to do? Remember, vocabulary is never, ever a homework activity. It is never, ever a completely independent activity, because we want to make sure that as they're learning this skill and applying this skill, we want to be checking in and monitoring that they're doing it in the correct way so that they don't perfect incorrect habits. All right. Also remember, in the Schoology folder, there are vocabulary passages. Initially, we thought maybe that they would be used as an entrance point to the vocabulary words, but I'm thinking it's a great review time for our students. After we've completed the list, it might be a good pre-quiz activity. But those vocabulary passages for a lot of the lists are in the Schoology folder. Remember to always be focused on that gradual release. I do, we do, they do, you do. That they do being a partnership. Remember pacing. We can't go too slowly, so by the time we get done with a list, they can't remember the first word, but we can't go so quickly that they're not understanding. So just be aware of that. Okay? Remember to use visuals for vocabulary and give real life examples. Remember that if you're using and do your lesson plans in slides or something, have everything ready in those slides to keep things moving and help keep you on track. Sometimes it helps to have an electronic vocabulary sheet on your desktop to type in as the students do their work on their paper, whether it's electronic or physical paper pencil. It is easier for them to track, but also it's really handy for those students that are absent to be able to catch up. And really, don't skip out on anything in the vocab process, including saying those vocabulary words 3 times out loud. Remember, the function of that is so that they can hear it said correctly and they can attempt to create and reproduce that word on their own, and you can check to be sure that they're saying it correctly. All right. Remember, membean.com/treelist is your friend. All right. To help with related words if you need to. Have all of the suffix and prefix and root information written out. This is that plan ahead. And have a word wall of some kind. I don't care how you organize it, but you can organize it according to list, alphabetically, common prefixes, common roots, however you choose. But take a minute to think about what is it that you're doing well and what is it that you need to adjust in your vocabulary instruction and your vocabulary routine to ensure that our students are getting the most out of it. Remember, the function of this isn't just to memorize things, but it's to understand that bigger words are made up of smaller word parts that contain meaning. And so that when they see those smaller word parts in other settings, that they'll have some reference or some knowledge of, oh my gosh, I've seen that. It means this. And so I know that even though I don't necessarily know how to read this whole word, I know kind of what it means. So it's going to help me access things in my classes better. Visualizing and verbalizing that quote unquote game, we are moving with our students from just a picture to a noun. All right. And if you've had students that have done this for a year or so, you can move from a picture to a noun phrase. In other words, something a little more descriptive, adding an adjective to it. And using that, you could also, as we get going throughout the year, you could be using passages from your thinking reading books with visualizing and verbalizing. But the first quarter assessment we want to do is an assessment on just a picture. And so we want to see how many descriptors they can bring forth with this picture. And then you're going to use the rubric to help score that. All right. Remember, we're going from a picture to a single word. And think about what supports will you need to build to help students move. Do you need to have a word bank? Do you need to have sentence frames? What do you need to have? All right. Those are the things I wanted to focus on from quarter one, because those are the three really big chunks that I think we were dealing with. We're going to get into something where we're going to shift gears with vocabulary, because as some of you have pointed out, sometimes the prefix, root, and suffix thing don't work. Okay? It just doesn't work. And so while that works for a majority of our words, sometimes it doesn't, and we need another strategy. It just can't be, oh, well, it doesn't work. Well, I guess I just don't know. Whatever, moving on. We can't have that. We have to have an alternative thing. Plus, this also gives students voice and choice, and they can learn a strategy, a new strategy, and make the decision for themselves which one works best for them. So here we go. The new strategy is the linking strategy. And here's an overview, very, very brief, and then we're going to get into some modeling. Step 1, we list the parts. Step 2, we identify a reminding word. Step 3, we note a linking story. 4, we create a linking picture. And 5, we self-test. All right? The reason we do this, it helps students learn new vocabulary words with memory enhancement techniques. It helps them focus on critical elements, use visual imagery, use prior knowledge, keyword mnemonics, learn how to create study cards, so it helps teach a study strategy. So those are all really, really strong benefits. All right. Using the links strategy helps us, like maybe there's not a real strong connection. Maybe they're having a hard time making some connections with some vocabulary and differentiating between some vocabulary. But if we use the linking strategy, it might help strengthen that bond and that connection. So it might help deepen that understanding of the vocabulary. All right, so we're going to look at the components. So we have a sheet of paper, And it does not look anything like our vocabulary process, does it? We're going to, in fact, turn it the other way. And we're going to go lay our paper the hamburger way and divide it into 5 boxes. In box number 1, we're going to write our word. That's our vocabulary word. In box number 2, we're going to look up the word in the dictionary or onelook.com, and we are going to write the key parts of the definition that we need to remember. Not the whole definition. What are the key parts of the definition? To me, this is like in science when we had to learn the difference between fusion and fission. This would have been a really good strategy for me to use in order to learn the difference and remember the difference. All right? In box number 3, we're going to write a reminding word, and we're going to talk about what the criteria for our reminding words is coming up. Then we're going to write a quick little story. It doesn't have to be much. It's not like an essay or a long fairy tale or whatever. It's just a quick short story. And then in box number 5, we're going to draw a picture connected to that reminding word. Okay, so our reminding word is in box number 3, and our picture in box number 5 is connected to box number 3. I know this is theoretical. Let's look at it in action. So I have the word fluorite. Fluorite. I've been looking at my prefix, root, and suffix package. I really don't think I have anything. I'm not finding anything. So I know that that strategy is not going to work for me here. So I set up my paper. I write the word fluorite. And then I go to box number 2 and I write the definition, the key parts of the definition that I need to remember. So the key parts of the definition that I need to remember are it's a purple mineral used to make steel hard. So it has purple, steel, and hard are the key things that I want to remember. Okay? Because it's going to tell me what it looks like and kind of some of the characteristics. All right? The next thing I do is I come up with a reminding word. Now, a reminding word is something that reminds me of it or rhymes. It can either start the same or rhyme. And I see fluorite, I think floor. Fluorite, floor. Okay? So I've got my reminding word. It starts out the same. Then I create my little story. Doesn't have to be very much. But you know, my knee turned purple when I hit the steel floor. Notice how I used some of the key words, purple, steel, in my story to help me remember that. And then my reminding word. And finally, number 5, I found a picture or I draw a picture of something that reminds me of that word, okay, or to remind me of my story or my reminding word. And I see that I'm on the floor and I hit the floor. That's a really bad picture, really gritty picture right now, but it's a basketball guy hitting the floor and his knee is going to turn all purple, all right? So that's the linking strategy as an example. But the reminding word is the key. The reminding word is the key. And it should always sound like part or all of the word. It should always be a real word. It should always have a meaning that you already know. And it helps you remember what the word means. It could sound like the beginning of our new vocabulary word. It could sound like the end of that new vocabulary word. It could have a meaning that's very similar, so maybe like a synonym. And it can be 2 or more words that sound like the new word. Okay? The reminding word is the toughest thing to come up with. That and limiting the definition so they're not writing the whole definition. They're just picking out the key pieces. All right? So, how do you know when to use the linking strategy? Well, you need to use it when you need to remember the meaning of a new word. Or you want to differentiate between two similar words like fission and fusion. Okay? If you want to focus your attention on key parts of a definition, to use knowledge that you already have to build up to knowledge that you need to have. And when you need to have a built-in study tool. All right? Linking is not for memorizing a series of items or steps in a series. It's not for memorizing a passage or poem. It's not for when you already know the meaning of a word. Okay? Why do you need to do that then? Again, it's focusing on being strategic. If you already know the meaning of the word, why go through the strategy work? It's useless. You're wasting your time. It's for if you don't know the meaning of a word and you need a way to remember. And it's not for when a different strategy would be more effective for memorizing that word. Okay? This is another option for students. Sometimes what we found is that groups of students feel very strongly one way or the other. They might discover that once they do the linking strategy, oh my gosh, this makes way more sense than looking at the little word parts. I'd much rather do the linking strategy. And that's great. But also understanding there are times when it's appropriate and not appropriate. There are some students that are going to say, no, not going to do it. That is not for me. I am much more like the word part, word meaning, here we go, do the process that we started with in quarter one. But by giving them an option, you're giving them the power of choice. And you're giving them another door that's open for them to be successful. So, there are lists that are identified as linking strategy lists. Offhand, I don't remember which ones they are, but they're in the Schoology folder. All right. So there are some that, and you'll see when you look at the lists, you'll see that it's like, wait a second, these don't have any roots or prefixes or anything. This must be the linking list. All right. So we usually like to do one to start, and then we'll cycle back during the year and it'll come up again. But we do put a bigger focus on the vocabulary routine that we learned at the beginning of the year because so many more of the words fit into that category. And by learning those prefix, affix, and prefix, suffix, and root pieces, you can open up an exponentially greater degree of vocabulary. So this is voice and choice. This is linking. There are times when it's going to be appropriate and times when it's not. But at least we're giving them options. Okay? Moving on. Here's the comprehension strategy that we're going to get into. And the comprehension strategy is main idea and detail. The purpose of the main idea and detail strategy is to obviously improve our comprehension and inferential thinking skills. Because we all know that in passages, not all the time are the main ideas clearly stated. Sometimes we have to read between the lines and figure out what it is. So the purpose is to increase our performance on reading comprehension tasks, requiring understanding of inferential main ideas. And we're going to learn it, and then we're going to help them become independent in their use of this. So here are the key pieces. We need to know what a topic is. We need to know what it is and that you can identify it. We need to know what details are and whether you can identify them. What is a main idea and can you identify it? We need to know the difference between a literal and inferred main idea. And we need to practice our paraphrasing. Is it accurate and in your own words, but not a definition? And we're going to talk about what are the characteristics of a good paraphrase. So as with everything, we are going to give you an overview. I'm going to model for you what the whole thing might look like. All right. So I have this passage. It's called The Director. And I am looking at this, and gosh, if I don't see the word director repeated over and over and over and over in this. So if I'm thinking about it, something that's repeated over and over and over and over again has got to be the topic. It just has to be. They wouldn't be mentioning the director over and over if that wasn't what it was all about. So I know my topic is director. And then I'm going to look at this and I see, there are things that they talk about that the director does. Like it's his job to turn words of a script into pictures. Or he needs to be connected and he needs to communicate his vision. He needs to be able to solve problems and then put all of the feed that they have that they've shot, all of the film that they've shot. He needs to be able to condense this into a story that can communicate that vision. So those are all details about what a director does. So if I look at those details, I can say, I think the main idea of this is that the director has many jobs in a movie that are important to how the movie turns out. Now, nowhere in these paragraphs does it say that sentence. But I'm using my background knowledge and I'm using what they're telling me to say, you know what? The director's a pretty important guy. He's a pretty important guy on this to the success of a movie. That's what this is. It's being able to figure out the main idea. The main idea strategy, the first thing, notice we have a mnemonic. Main I. Make the topic known. Accent at least 2 essential details. Ink out the clarifying details. Notice how the essential details are related. And infer the main idea. Now I see on here I've got essential details and clarifying details. And I know I'm going to come up and learn about those. But you can see how I did that. Make the topic known. It's the director. Accent at least 2 essential details. He turns words into pictures. He communicates his vision. Clarifying, he's able to solve problems of how to turn words into pictures. And communicating his vision through taking many feet of film and condensing them. Then I'm noticing how the essential details up here are related. Like I just said, he solves problems of turning words into pictures and clearly communicating by condensing the right footage. Okay? And then I'm going to infer, put all those pieces together and infer that the director has many jobs in a movie that are important to how the movie turns out. Just like I did on that other sheet, but it's showing you where everything comes in terms of the steps of the strategy. Okay, So that's just a general overview, big picture for you to understand kind of what it all looks like and what are the steps. And so what we're going to do is the first thing we're going to do, as we do with every strategy that we teach, we pre-test our students. What do they already know? What do they need to improve? We need to gain commitment from our kids. We need to provide some direct instruction. And that direct instruction is explain, model, and get into guided practice. Then we do partner practice and independent practice and post-test. The thing that I don't have on here is generalize, where we take it outside of structured settings to show them how it works in their classes, in their life. All right. Here's one of our pre-test and post-test passages. All right. You can use this text, or you can use the one on the other page. And notice I've numbered this, and we number the paragraphs. All right. We read paragraph 1, and we paraphrase the main idea in 2 essential details. Then we read paragraph 2, paraphrase the main idea in 2 essential details. Read paragraph 3, paraphrase main idea in 2 essential details in paragraph 3. Okay? And so on and so on and so on. The teacher gets it and they score it. Did you get the essential detail from paragraph 1? Did you get the second detail? Did you identify it? Okay? And were you able to paraphrase it? So notice you've got the identifying the details and paraphrasing. They're 2 separate skills that are scored. Okay? In addition to that, as with everything, remember the whole purpose of our comprehension strategies is to improve our comprehension. And so we need to show them that what they're doing will improve their comprehension. So we always have comprehension questions. So after they do the paraphrasing, then they answer the comprehension questions, and we score their performance on that. So that's the pre-test. That's also the post-test. Okay? Then there are 6 instructional lessons where we're doing some specific things. We're identifying some key terms. We're teaching them how to do some key skills, like infer topics and main ideas. Not identify the ones that are clearly stated, because that's easy, but infer. Then we're going to teach the steps of the strategy. We're going to teach students to paraphrase, and we're going to demonstrate the use of the strategy. And then we're going to verbally practice using the strategy. Okay? Here's what I want you to pay attention to. One of the reasons we do this right now in middle school is because as they move into high school, and if they still continue to need a reading intervention class in high school, when they get to high school, there are going to be strategies that they're going to learn that are going to rely on the fact that they know how to identify a main idea in detail. They're going to rely on the fact that they know how to paraphrase and what a good paraphrase is. And so it's really important that we are explicit in our instruction around these things and take time to do this well. I will tell you that all materials that you will need for teaching this strategy, anything that's referenced, any instructions, are found in the Schoology folder. The manual, the instructor's manual with directions on what to do and how to do it, as well as some answer documents, an answer key, are found in that Schoology folder. So look for that so that you have the right information, so that you're doing this in the right way. So lesson 1 is defining topic, main idea, and detail. And there are cue cards and there are very simplified ways of explaining this. The topic is what the paragraph or passage is about. It's the subject of the paragraph or passage. It's usually made up of 1 or 2 words, not a whole sentence. So if your students are identifying a sentence, they're getting confused between topic and main idea. And it's an easy switch. Remind them that topic is 1 or 2 words. See the TO in topic? 2. Okay. I know it's not the right 2, but let's go with it. All right. Essential details and clarifying details. They reference that in our main I mnemonic and strategy outline. Remember, essential details provide key information about the topic and are necessary for understanding the main idea. It is the stuff. And so we're going to hear them talk about stuff and fluff. The stuff is essential. The fluff is not essential. The fluff provides further explanation of the essential details. They're not necessary to understand the main idea. And we're going to get into stuff versus fluff in a little bit. And the main idea. So we've got topic, essential detail, clarifying detail, and main idea. Main idea is the most important thing being said about the topic. It can be literal or inferred, and it answers the question, what's the big idea or point being made about the topic? Okay, so let's look at this. This is one of the practice passages that you'll find online in Schoology. It's called Angelfish. Guys, usually I'm just going to say if it's the title, it's going to be the topic. So we've already identified our topic, unless it's some kind of cryptic title, right, of a narrative thing. But usually, if it's passage for angelfish, all right, it's going to be about angelfish. All right. Then we would read. Angelfish live in the waters of South America. They live in warm seas and coral reefs. They can grow to be 17 inches long. They usually swim alone or in pairs. They have thin bodies. They also have a strong spine in the lower part of the cheekbone. The angelfish are one of the most brightly colored fish of the sea. They mainly eat sponge and algae. Okay, I'm going to continue reading, but here's my thing. I'm just wondering, what are some important details, some essential details? Well, they live in the waters of South America. And I know that South America is warm, mostly. So I'm going to assume that they live in the warm seas and coral reefs. So that first sentence, angelfish live in the waters of South America, might be an essential detail because it's important to know like where they live. The second sentence, they live in warm seas and coral reefs, further explains or just clarify, like, it's like, I don't need that. But it further explains the South America piece. Okay. And it talks about what they look like. Okay. I'm gonna go on because I wonder what the next paragraphs have to say. There's a fish called the black spot angelfish. It can change from girl to boy. No, it cannot do it by wishing to become a boy. It happens for a reason. Okay. So it can change from a girl to a boy. Might be something. You know what I'm sensing? I'm wondering if it's not about the black spot angelfish, because the rest of the article or the rest of the passage talks about the boy angelfish and the girl angelfish. So it's not just about angelfish in general. Maybe it's more about the black spot angelfish. And maybe I want to pay attention to the essential details around that. Like, what is the boy angelfish like? It's the strongest and largest member of the group. That would be an essential detail. The next sentence, he's the one who protects and looks after the girls, clarifies or provides additional information about and verification that that's what a strongest and largest member of the group would do, right? Okay. So that's kind of the process that we're going to go through, right? I don't want to belabor the point, but that is the process that we're going to go through. And then we're going to get to a main idea statement. Okay. Lesson number 2 talks about teaching students to infer topics and main ideas. The goal is to distinguish between topic, main idea, and detail, to distinguish between essential and clarifying details, and to learn about the process of making an inference. And this is critical, guys. This is critical. So if you look at this hodgepodge of words, right? These words can be divided into categories. And those categories, another way to say categories is topics. I see fruit might be a category. Animals might be a category, and cars might be a category. So those are my topics. This list has 3 topics, 3 categories or 3 topics: animals, cars, and fish and fruit. All right. So in making inferences, we're reading between the lines. Nowhere on this list did we have the words animals, cars, or fish, but we were able to put things into those categories and make them fit. So these things that seem unrelated, if we look more closely at them, might become related. And that's how we make our inferences. It's not going to come out and tell us. It's not going to come out and bite us on the nose or another place, but it's going to call for us to put some pieces together. It asks and answers the questions: what's mentioned more than once? What's it all about? What's the topic? And then we ask the next 5 questions. How do the sentences all go together? What is he saying or she saying, but not really saying? Do the sentences give us examples or characteristics? Kind of like the difference between the boy angelfish and the girl angelfish. What's the big idea or point made in these sentences? Essentially, what's the main idea? So you're having it's kind of like putting a puzzle together. Kind of like filling in the missing pieces of a word find or a number jug, like a Sudoku puzzle, right? We're putting the pieces together. Let's look at this. Lions are large animals. They often weigh over 800 pounds. Lions also have large teeth. They use them effectively to kill and eat other large animals for survival. Lions are often called predators. They typically will stalk and find live prey. So when I was looking at this and reading it, I heard lions multiple times. That is my topic. Now I'm going to find more statements that tell me more about the topic. Well, lions weigh over 800 pounds. They have large teeth. They're called predators. So the topic is lions. I found the details that tell me about the lions, And so now I'm using that information to create a main idea sentence in my own words. Lions are big, dangerous animals. And notice big and large. Big and large are synonyms, right? So I just substituted one and I made it a synonym. But they're big, dangerous animals. It doesn't say anything about danger in my passage, but I know that they have large teeth and they kill and they're predators, and that makes them dangerous in my book. Okay? I want you to look at this. Those words, those sentences that I underlined, okay? Those are my clarifying details. Some of them are, okay? Some of them are my essential details. Lions are large animals is an essential detail and talks about their size. They weigh over 800 pounds tells more just about how big they are. Lions have large teeth. It tells what they use them for and why it's important that they have them. They're called predators. And what does a predator do? They typically will stalk and find live prey and chase it down, right? I just am seeing on Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, the lions chasing the zebras across the savannas. Okay? But remember, clarifying further explains the one that's really super important to be there to back up our main idea. Lesson 3 talks about teaching the strategy. So our goal is to understand how to use or do each step of the main I and understand the mnemonic. To understand how to find the main idea, to understand how to pick out the essential details, and to understand how, where, and why you would use the strategy. And again, there's the strategy steps. And notice that in the end step, this is where we start putting our information together. It's where we add this to the pot and this to the pot and another thing to the pot, and we put it all together and poof, it becomes this inference or this main idea that we just are putting together in our own words. Now, really, is it poof? Not really. It is the work, but it's not something that's explicitly written in the rest of our paragraph or passage. Lesson 4 is teaching students to paraphrase. We need to understand that this is a necessary part of the strategy. We need to understand what makes a good paraphrase, and we need to identify well-constructed paraphrases. So what does make a good paraphrase? It must be totally accurate and include all the important information. That means it's complete. It must have differently worded information. It means your words, not someone else's. Your words, not someone else's. It uses synonyms, probably. It may take more words to say something differently. It must contain useful and relevant information. It must be specific and clear. And it is not a definition or a topic sentence. Let's take a look. Here's our statement. Teenagers visit the mall almost every Saturday. Think about the characteristics of a good paraphrase. Is the first one, teenagers went to the mall on Saturday, a good paraphrase? Yes or no? I hope you all chose no, because it is not complete or accurate. Okay? It's not just one Saturday, it's almost every Saturday. Look at the second one. Adolescents often roam around the mall on the weekend. Hopefully, you said, yeah, that's a good paraphrase. Visit and roam, walk, roam, round the mall. Okay. Yep, the mall, the mall. Almost every Saturday. Well, on the weekend. Yeah. It doesn't limit it to a particular weekend or a particular day, but this is an example of a good paraphrase. Okay. So paraphrasing will take you a little bit, but remember that we can paraphrase with synonyms on our vocabulary. We can paraphrase with song lyrics, maybe even. Take a verse from a song and have them pick out some words to paraphrase, to put it in their own words. Okay. Lesson 5, we're demonstrating how the strategy is used. It really is simple. The goal is to observe the thinking process that the teacher is going through as they're modeling the strategy in use. And then it's to participate in the demonstration and verbalize how to find the essential details and make the inferences and paraphrase. So first it's watch, then it's do with me. We can use a variety of passages to demonstrate this strategy in action. There are practice passages that are controlled passages that are in the Schoology folder. You could also look at Newsela, Wonderopolis, school textbooks, practice passages, things like that. But you could do that. And you could model, again, with the director, or you could model with the pre-test option that you didn't choose. Take your pick. Okay. Lesson 6, again, we're verbally practicing the strategy. Here's my thing. They often call for a verbal practice written quiz, which is an oxymoron in my world. It really is. The essential piece that we need them to do in this is to help them become more automatic in their understanding of the steps of the strategy. You could do it in Kahoot, you could do it in a sorting, you could do it as part of a warm-up, you could do it as a round robin, you could do it as one of these things does not belong, which one is it? Or describe this step, what do you do? Things like that. But keep it light. The purpose is for automaticity. And then there's student practice, and that's so you've done the demonstrating this. So this is the I do and the we do. Okay, the I do and the we do. Now we're down to partner practice and independent practice. All right. You're going to find materials at their instructional level to use and then go one level lower. So we are having them practice a new skill. And instead of practicing a new difficult thing with difficult material, we're going to bring the reading level down just a little bit so that at least that part is comfortable and that they can focus on using the steps of the strategy. As they get proficient with that level, with everything we do, we want to bump it up, bump it up. Our goal is to bump it up 2 levels at least with what they're doing, because that's the way that we're going to bump them up into being able to attack the grade level content that they're going to be exposed to in some of their classes. All right. While students are practicing with one another, you're moving around the classroom, listening and stopping in and monitoring and making sure that they're applying and doing the steps of the strategy correctly. And then you're gauging when someone's ready to try it independently. And then you're going to start keeping record of that. In the meantime, they're keeping their own records. All right. So notice that we've got a controlled passage that we're going to use. And this is for guided practice. This could be for, you're sending them off. You're going to model this and have them tell you maybe what to do during parts of it. And you've got your comprehension questions. Remember, this is one of the first times that the comprehension questions, besides the pretest, are coming into play. Because right up until this point, we've just been learning the strategy. Now we're going to see, oh, look, this is what doing the strategy gives me. It gives me a greater sense of understanding. And that students are going to chart their progress. Students are going to chart, and all of this is in the Schoology group as well. It's a student record sheet, so they can use that. All right. There's a little bit bigger one. We want students to reach 80% mastery on the comprehension, definitely. And like I said, once we're mastering our instructional level materials, we move closer and closer to grade level. We're going to leapfrog up and leapfrog up to the next level up and the next level up. Okay? So this is a lot of time. There might be a lot of days where for the 25 minutes or 20 minutes of your class, you're doing this partner practice and independent practice and bump, bump, bump. Okay? And then you're going to post-test. Same pre-test, post-test. But you're going to let them you're going to let them apply the strategy that they've just been practicing and just have mastered. You're going to let them apply that to the post-test, and you're going to see the impact that it has. And more importantly, they're going to see the impact that it has. The last thing you're going to do is you're going to generalize, and you're going to take it outside of their structured and controlled practice environment, and you're going to show them how this is going to work for them in science, or how it's going to work for them in social studies, or how it's going to work for them in math. Think about those math story problems that they might encounter, the word problems. How might paraphrasing help them? How might finding the essential details and the clarifying details and being able to distinguish between the two help them? How might it help them to be able to infer what a problem is asking for? Lots of different ways that this can be used. So that's generalization. So when are you going to start this? The timeline for this is Q2, which means you start on day 1 of Q2 with the pretest. All right? By giving this to you now, it gives you about 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks to look at this, to get materials collected, to get things figured out, and then you can get started. All right? So what does it mean for a daily class schedule, though? So if you have like a 45, 47-minute class period, what you're going to do is you're going to do your warm-up, and then you're going to alternate between thinking, reading, or vocabulary. You're not going to do both on the same day, because you're going to take some of that time and you're going to devote 20 minutes every day to the main idea and detail instruction and practice. And then you're going to have your wrap-up. If you have a block schedule, your day might look like this. You've got your warm-up, and then you're going to do thinking, reading, and vocabulary, and still have 25 minutes for strategy, instruction, and practice every day. So you're going to get to do everything every day, and it's going to be super important that you do everything every day, because you likely only meet every other day. So it's really important that we're utilizing our time very effectively when we have these things. In addition, some of you might need to run intervention groups, and maybe they've got a reading intervention or a phonics intervention that you need to do, or to support so that you can fill in some of those gaps. You could, if you're on that block schedule, you could then choose to alternate thinking, reading, and vocabulary, and that would free up a 15-minute chunk of time for you to do a small group of intervention with a group. And then on the next day, do a small group intervention with another group and alternate that way. The thing that stays constant, however, is your comprehension, strategy, instruction, and practice happens every single day. That is a given. I hope you found this informative. I hope it was not too panic-inducing because it's not what I intend at all. And I think when you get to see the materials that are laid out for you and the fact that you don't have to create a lot, it's been created for you, I think that you'll find that it's going to be manageable. In the email link and in the presentation in the Schoology group is a link to the Google form that I need you to fill out. And I'd like you to share some of your reflection on how things are going, what concerns, what questions, things like that, and just answer the questions on there. It'll be a way for me to gauge what else is needed as we move forward in the year with training, with not being able to be in person. But remember that other teachers in your building who may teach this class are wonderful resources, or may have taught this class are wonderful resources. Your special education building coaches are wonderful resources to answer any questions. And if they're not sure, and if you don't have anybody else in your building, please do reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'll answer any questions that you ask in the Google form. So I will respond to you. I look forward to one day being able to be in the same room and do training. But until then, I wish you well. I wish you peace. I wish you calm. We can do this, and go out there and be the best that you can be.